on your side because IG's on yours.
Yep. Hey everyone, welcome to a webinar with Russ and Jon. This is where the two of us really have no agenda except to talk about our journey as entrepreneurs, how we got to know each other, what we've built, and really the relationship between Russ and I, which I think is foundational to my entire career. I don't think that I could have anything that I've built without Russ Flips Whips. And I think, Russ, I hope you feel a little bit that way about me, but I think the two of us have been a pretty cool team. And I don't know, Russ, do you want to add anything to the introduction?
Yeah, I think the feeling's definitely mutual there. We've definitely complemented each other in terms of you with your risk taking that has rushed off on me. Now I love taking risk where I had the same job for 10 years straight. And I think I've, through my social media platform, introduced you to these opportunities that we can now take risks on. So it's been a really like a match made in heaven.
Yeah, no, Russ is world's greatest business partner. And I would kick this thing off by maybe starting with me a little bit. I was an in-store car guy for 10 years. I worked in Northern Virginia at a big car dealership, and it's a career that I really loved. I ended up leaving the Coons dealership group and moving to Florida. And that's one of those moments in life where you just like don't even know what you're going to do with yourself, right? All I knew is the car business, and I wasn't going to do it down here in Florida because I really only valued working for Jim Coons. That was kind of the career opportunity that I always wanted. And then I just kind of started stacking like whatever I could get automotive oriented in order to kind of build a second career with for myself. So I was one of those guys who was successful in a store. I was successful within the four walls of a car dealership. And then I had to figure out how to translate that to a second act, to not working in a car dealership, something that maybe was like a little better lifestyle for my family, or, could I figure out a way to get this really weird domain expertise rewarded by the grander market? And Russ, before I met you, I started an offshore call center in Nicaragua, and we were doing like cold calls for car dealerships, second and third chance appointment making.
I didn't know that, but does that surprise me? No.
It was a great opportunity. A guy that I surf with, I was down here kind of like kicked in the teeth after, not losing a big career, but basically, down on my luck a little bit. And he had a call center. And I said, it's COVID. These guys, they can't really like be in the store making appointments right now. Why don't we use the remote call center and they'll make service and second chance sales appointments? And the cool part about that is I had to learn how to build a CRM. I had to learn how to build HubSpot. And then I had to learn how to extract data from a DMS, which every car vendor in the world eventually runs into that problem. If you're trying to sell something to a car dealership, you have to figure out how to pull the data out of the CRM or the DMS. And that's something I had to figure out like as a novice. Yeah. And then from there, I built a call center with people in Nicaragua. I was honest with every car dealer I ever sold that to. Hopefully some of them are watching me right here. But they were large franchise groups signed up for this because it was kind of like needed during COVID. But eventually that was just my foray into being a vendor. I didn't even know I was a vendor. I just had a weird idea, sold it into car dealers by the seat of my
pants. Isn't
pants.
that like the worst feeling when as a former car salesperson, you've realized you wake up one day like, I'm a vendor. I had that realization like 6 months ago. Like someone called me a vendor, not in a derogatory way. And I was like, I feel like it had like if you are in the know and you've worked in a dealership for a long time, not that there's a derogatory thing. There's nothing wrong with being a vendor. Me and you are both vendors, but there is like you're a vendor. You're not a car salesperson.
There's such an insecurity about going from car dealer to vendor, especially if you were ever one of the guys that ever got your butt kissed by a vendor, where they used to take you to dinner, or they used to, hope you bought their product. And now you're on the other side of the table and you're like,
oh, we had this one vendor. We knew every Tuesday she was bringing pretzels and donuts.
Yeah.
You just knew. Like, where's
People
the
don't do
Carfax
that
lady?
to vendors. I'll give you a good story about that. One time, wonderful vendor entrepreneur was at NADA on day one, and his family owned a dealer group. Okay. So he was a very good friend of mine. And I saw him walk through the door, and day one, he had his vendor badge on. Okay. And I was, hey, congrats on the startup, all this stuff. And he has a cool company. Let me tell you, like, I hope one day Freddy Media is as good at that as that company. And then day two, he walked in and his vendor badge was nowhere to be seen. He was wearing his dealer badge because family owns the car dealership. And I said, hey, dude, who hurt your feelings? I said, it's not so fun on this side of the table, is it?
Yeah. No, it's so true.
Yeah, but Russ, tell everybody about how you got started. You were a car salesman. How did you find yourself working at a Lincoln store in Pennsylvania? What did you think of that career? And when you hit fame, what were you going to do with it as it pertains to being a car dealer?
Yeah, so it's honestly a pretty long story of like Russ starting at Biondi Lincoln to meeting Jon Frederick. But the cliff notes are I was in high school washing cars at a dealership. My best friend's at the time, his father was a general manager. I'll never forget, he slept over at my house on a Friday night and we're hanging out doing what 15-year-olds do. And he's like, yeah, dude, I got to leave early tomorrow. My dad's going to pick me up at 7:30. I'm like, what does your daddy? I was like, what does your dad even do? He's like, oh, he works at a car dealership. I don't know anything about cars. I'm 15. I don't even have a car. I'm like, so what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to wash them. I'm like, oh, cool. He's like, yeah, I make $12 an hour on Saturdays and we get free pizza. I'm like, how do I start? I don't have a job. I want a job. And his dad, who I knew pretty well at the time, came and picked him up. And I'll never forget, I walked out there. I said, can I please come to work today? I will work for free. This seems like a cool career, like a cool job, like washing cars for $12 an hour, eating pizza on a Saturday. It was like match made in heaven for a 15-year-old kid. And he was like, yeah, hop in. You know what I mean? So start washing cars there. I'm washing cars there for a couple of years after school in the summer. And then our junior year of high school, the principal calls in all the juniors and he's like, hey, if you want to get a job your senior year or go attend college, we're going to do a work release program. He's like, I want to do this progressive thing. I don't think you guys need to be here from, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. He goes, so if you want to leave at like 11:30 after you do math, reading, science, and English or whatever the four were, you can do that. And dude, I'm like, I'm not a burnout in high school, but I'm like, yeah, I'm out. Like,
you're a very anti-college guy. And were you an anti-college guy at the time, or are you anti-college now that you're like safely on the other side of the fence?
So at the time I was like actually planning to go to college. I had a 3.1 GPA.
Hey, quit bragging.
Yeah, right. So good. And that was with a lot of D's and F's because there were some classes I just opted out of. But I was like, oh my goodness, I can leave school after fourth period. This is great. I hate doing all this stupid stuff. I'm going to go talk to the general manager, see if I can get some hours at like 12. I come up to him like, hey, next year, starting after football season in like November, can I start working after like 12 instead of coming in at like 3:30? Can I come in at 12? And he's like, are you dropping out, dude? I was like, no. We have like work release. He's like, yeah, you can't. Your parents would kill me if I gave you an opportunity to leave school and wash cars. Maybe you could work on our BDC. We actually have an opportunity. We need 3. We only have 2. And we don't need a full-time third, but we could certainly use a part-time. So now I'm in the BDC, still making $12 an hour. And looking back, I never got a raise for that. But so like every car salesperson, your opportunity comes from the BDC when there's no salespeople available and they need somebody.
Yeah,
they come and grab me.
Like hanging around the hoop.
Yeah. Like, hey, Russ, can you take this customer? Sure. I have no clue what I'm doing. And the customer just complimented my honesty because I would be like, I don't know anything about this car. I'm not going to say here. I don't even know why you should buy it. I know nothing. I started answering phones 2 weeks ago, bro. I was just super honest with the guy. And Jim was like, hey, we actually, the general manager was like, hey, we actually could use you in sales. I'm like, dude, I can't sell cars. I'm in high school. He's like, yeah, you can. You're 18. That's the only prerequisite is you're 18. Cool. Start selling cars. Time goes by. I'm not doing social media. I'm just happy to sell 8 cars a month and make $3 to $4 grand a month. Like, cool. I'm in high school. This is awesome. And then you get out of high school and it's like, oh, I want to buy a house. I have bills to pay. I don't want to live with my grandma anymore. This is not the place to have my girlfriend come over all the time.
Now your wife, people don't know this about Russ, dated the same girl since how long?
Since we were 13.
Russ has dated Cassie since they were 13. He's now 27 years old, just had a baby together. When did you get married? You got married like 4 years ago?
3.5, yeah. February.
The very endearing thing about Russ Flips Whips is they don't know the Cassie side of the equation. She's been there the whole time.
Yeah, she has supported me from day one. And then, let's ramp up to how I meet Jon. I start doing social media, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. I work at a small family-owned Lincoln dealership that kind of pivoted after we lost the Mercury brand. I say we, even though I didn't work there. But after they lost the Mercury brand, it was like, okay, we sold 10 new Lincolns and 80 Mercurys a month. Yeah, there goes Mercury. What are we going to do? They decided to start selling enterprise cars. And it was very, very progressive. We were one of the first dealerships. They started doing it in like 2013. We're going to buy 100 cars a month from enterprise. We're going to mark them up $100. We're going to do a no haggle price and we're going to sell them all over the country. And it was like crazy. So when I start there, I'm selling 8 to 10 used cars without even trying. Like
It's
like
interesting
easy.
that you saw the car business through the lens of like, yeah, let's sell rental cars anywhere in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just the business I was brought into. It was like I sold used cars at a Lincoln dealership. It was not like I was never brought in under the premise I would even have to sell a Lincoln. I
Yeah,
was like,
for
no, you have to
context for
sell the used cars,
people
Russ.
who are bearing with us on this stream is like a franchise car dealership generally just wants to sell to the people that are in their neighborhood. They want to take care of the people around them and they want to get repeat and referral business. So that's like, I would say something about the Beyondy career when I met you. You had a very like peculiar lens on the car business.
And that works when you're the only Toyota dealer in town, but when you're one of, at the time, 6 Lincoln dealers in a 40-mile radius, get what you can take, okay? Because like there's like dream scenario, and then like what we have to do, to make sure, Beyond has always been, it's a huge facility, body shop, service department, 50 to 60 employees employed at all times. So you can't sell 10 Lincolns a month and support that. So it's like, what are we going to do? And we did a really good job at that for a long time. But then everyone started buying cars from Enterprise. Everyone started doing no haggle pricing, and it became cutthroat. And then you had to buy the cars at a loss from Enterprise to maybe make it up on the back end.
I remember that. I bought a lot of losers through Enterprise, justifying that I'd sell them a warranty and get them financed.
Yeah, and we were like, I shouldn't say we. I was not part of these discussions at the time, but as I remember speaking to Mr. Biondi, like I always asked him like why we did this. He was like, yeah, look, we're not going to buy cars to lose money, maybe make it. So I'll never forget this though, having the meeting where it's like, hey, we have to make a living off selling certified used and new Lincolns. Like we got to go all in on Lincoln. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm quitting. Like this ain't gonna work.
But the thing is, you're a Lincoln guy, brother. You are Lincoln loyal.
You're right. I am. At the time, I wouldn't say, I mean, I was, but it was like, I hadn't really sold any new Lincolns. I'm 18 and a half, almost 19 years old. I'm like, I got to figure out a way to sell new Lincolns. And the new Lincoln Aviator came out and it changed my life. Cause I just decided like, maybe if I make a YouTube video, someone will watch it, see me come buy a car from me. And sometimes there's luck. Is there really luck, or is it when opportunity meets preparation? Definitely wasn't prepared. That's for sure. If you go watch the video, you will see I was not prepared to make it, but I make this YouTube video and it gets 150,000 views. I sell a couple cars from it. I'm like, boom, this is it. YouTube. I mean, I got more people calling me today than I could have even poached out of the service department from this one video. Like we can reach so many more people with this. So I go all in on social. Fast forward, I figure it out, crack the code. I'm getting, at the height of my career, I'm getting 100 million views per month. I don't do anywhere near that anymore because I'm a vendor now. That's why. I do boring stuff. Yeah, I do boring stuff. But I'll never forget, I reached out to Yossi, a car dealership guy. I don't even know he's Yossi at the time.
You reached out to Yossi? I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is pre-reveal. I don't even know who he is. But he did a brand deal for some company on his podcast.
That's the commonality between the two of us. We both saw Car Dealership Guy, the Twitter account, and we both sent him a DM. That's what you and I share, is a delusion about reaching out to people cold.
Yes. And I actually, I was going to DM him on Twitter, or it was Twitter at the time, but I was like, he has so many followers. What if I go to his Instagram that has like 800 followers that he just started?
I had the same thought. I went to LinkedIn. I nailed it on. Dude, I could read that LinkedIn DM back to you. It reads like Shakespeare.
Yeah. So mine was like, yo, I see you do brand deals. I want to do them too.
That's what you reached out about?
So I probably said something more professional, but I was like, hey, I see you are doing brand deals with companies on your podcast and Twitter. I'm sure they're paying you.
Yeah.
I have a really large automotive following. It's completely different than yours. Mine reaches out to a lot of salespeople and I don't want to say lower level managers, but I don't at the time, which I proved wrong. I didn't think executives were watching me, which we found out they actually are.
Yeah.
But I was like, I do Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, vertical video, social very well. You do long form podcasts and writing very well.
You wanted to be a part of Car Dealership Guy. It was less like Car Dealership Guy selling you on being a part of it.
Yes, I reached out and was like, I would say more, and this is no disrespect to Yossi. I really enjoyed being a part of it. It was more, I want brand deals. Like I'm getting 100 million views a month. I need a company to pay me money. So
the irony of the whole thing is you honestly just needed me.
So what happens is I go through the lawyers and the contracts and they bring me on. I go do a podcast of Yossi, and then Yossi is like, all right, meet Jon. This is the guy that's going to make the brand deals. And I spoke to Yossi once a month and I spoke to Jon 10 times a day.
Well, it was interesting because Yossi kind of discovers Russ, right? I'm not really glued to social media the way I should be. And I see Russ and then I start studying it. We sign Russ. I'm kind of aware of it. Then I start studying his account and I'm enamored by Russ. And I start saying, like, what are your goals here, dude? And your goals at the time, you may not want to be honest about this, is you wanted to be the top Lincoln salesman in the world. You like visited me in Jacksonville. We're going through Ponte Vedra and you're like, this is a Lincoln town, brother. You're like, everyone at the Ponte Vedra club's got a Lincoln.
Which is true. I don't know who's selling those. I don't know if it's Duval or Bozard, a little bit of both, but there's enough to go around for them both to eat. There's a lot of navigators at the Ponte Vedra.
Yeah, you were loving Ponte Vedra. You were ready to move to Ponte Vedra because the parking lot of the club was like wall-to-wall Lincolns.
Dude, if you were smart, if I owned a dealer in Florida or in Jacksonville that sold Lincolns, I would have a salesperson just for the Ponte Vedra club to handle those accounts.
Yeah. And then I said to you, Russ, I said, so what brand deals have you done so far? And you were like, well, I've recently done an Arby's ad. What was the Arby's ad? How did they reach out to you?
Yeah, so Arby's reached out and we're like, hey, we're doing a campaign that loosely revolves around automotive and we think you'd be a good fit. Yeah. We're selling a keychain for $1. And if you buy the $1 keychain at the drive-thru or walking in, you get free cheddar sauce cups, not cheese cups. They were very peculiar. You had to say cheddar sauce cups. Somebody had trademarked the word cheese.
You were such a professional back then. You were like nailing it.
Yeah. Cheddar sauce cups. If you bought the $1 keychain, you got the free cheddar sauce cups for an entire year. So I'll never forget though, my brother and I are like, they're like, how much do we charge? I'm like, and I hadn't made a penny from social media aside from some platform revenue. I'm like, I don't know, dude, one video, my best performing video on TikTok has made me like $1,000. Let's just say $500. My brother's like, add a zero to that and then double it. I'm like, 10 G's? He's like, Hunter was like,
man, I miss that Russ. I miss that naive Russ that like fell off the turnip truck Russ. That was a special guy.
Hunter's like, bro, tell him 10,000. It's Arby's. I'm like, I can't do that. I'll tell him 5.
In Hunter's mind, Arby's is like the biggest corporation in the world.
Yeah. It doesn't get bigger than Arby's.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I was thrilled to hear and see what you had done for Arby's. Your work for Arby's was excellent. And then
it was, I went to the drive-thru 3 hours early before they opened to get my shot. So I didn't, it was all planned out. Yes. Arby's beef and Lincoln's can go together. I actually filmed the ad.
I got to remind you every once in a while of like how you stood on your head honorably for Arby's back in the day. You demeaned yourself for Arby's.
Dude, so the best part of the whole Arby's stories is we're in the drive-thru and it took us like 100 takes because I'm still a little not new to the content, but I'm not like doing it in one take like I am now.
Yeah.
And we're there long enough that eventually the staff shows up and they like talk to us through it. They're like, hey, we don't want to interrupt you. Keep doing your thing. When you're done, please come inside. We come in. They think I am like Tom Cruise. They don't know who I am, but they were just instructed that an extremely famous influencer was coming to film an ad.
There's a guy with a new haircut here and glasses.
So I go into Arby's. They give me one of everything on the menu, which I really didn't want, but whatever. The one lady's like calling her son, like, hey, there's this famous guy, Russ. I'm going to send you a picture. This is crazy. This is the best. Like, and I'm like, I don't think they realize I have 150,000 followers. Like, this is not 1.5 million followers at the time. This is like maybe 200. But it was really cool to do that first brand deal and then realize like, oh, like I've built something and they're not paying me for one video. They're paying me for 4 years at that time of building an audience, of content refinement. That's what they're paying for. It's not one video.
Fast forward a touch, and I think I make you a brand deal. Maybe it was for UVI or something like that. And
and this was good.
You did a great job. You go and you actually were getting in a little bit of like a tiff. You were calling me and you're like, this guy's pushing me around. He tries to tell me what goes viral. I know what's viral. It was like a funny little Hollywood moment where I was like calling them and I'm like, Russ thinks it'd be better if this happened. I was calling you and kind of like deliberating between the two.
And we blew that out of the water.
Yeah, that one went mega viral. And to the point where I called the guy, our point of contact, and I said, how did it go? And he told me how many UVIs or points of contact, how many people reached out and were excited about UVI. And I had that like, something clicked for me. Light turned on. I was like, young guy, I enjoy working with you know what I really loved about working with you, Russ, is you were funny. And like I love like twisted senses of humor. Like I know that you see my eyes light up when I'm working with Johnny Hilbrandt right now, like the private equity guy. Like
Yep.
when I write a skit about Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss, I like send it to you for approval, like a lapdog. Like, Russ, isn't this funny? Isn't this funny? And it's like I enjoy that more than I do the actual money of what we do and kind of like writing good things. Did I ever give you a good idea? You always thought I gave you half ideas.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever given me a full good idea? No. Really, a bunch of really good half ideas, like running the Saturday morning meeting, and it's like, what are we going to do to sell the car? And you have the salespeople say like 3 just ridiculous ideas, and we actually have regionalized this inside joke.
Yeah.
Because we've done it in Wisconsin, West Virginia, Florida. But going back to UVI, what was really interesting about that is we learned in 12 hours that, oh my goodness, Russ isn't a consumer audience. It's actually a very dealer audience and the right people.
And
That
that's what made me really obsessed with you. When I found people who owned 30 store groups or people who owned 100 car dealerships were DMing about that, I was like, okay, game over. I need to just like work with this exclusively. And it was kind of in that moment, it coincided with me deciding that I wanted to open my own business. I wanted to own Freddy Media. I just had success bringing an industry facing creator kind of from 0 to 1 and really blowing it out of the water. But that person was like a full blown entrepreneur. That, you know, Yossi Levy is like a great business operator. He's like a great publisher. He needs to have his own team, vertically integrated. And I felt like I could do what I did there for a bunch of other people. And Russ, I had my like Jerry Maguire moment, the who's coming with me. And, you know, it was like me, my goldfish, Savannah Sims, and Russ raised his hand. Actually, Savannah wasn't even here yet, but Russ raised his hand and said, Jon, I'll come along with you. Why did you do that? It was kind of like, you know, I don't know. Was that even the right call? Like, car dealership guy had a ton of deal flow, but like you came with me and I did offer you equity in my business. I said, Russ, come along. I'll focus on you. You'll be my star, Russ. And
yeah.
yeah, tell me about that decision. You know, don't spill the beans on everything, but yeah, I think that was a big moment for the two of us.
Yeah, car dealership guy was great. I just think the alignment on what I thought my future looked like, which was training, wasn't where they wanted to, you know, I'm not gonna say not support it, but not fully support it. It was more like, yeah, we're here to help you. Where it was
Well,
like
the
you were like,
legend of the Russ Flips Whips training is that Russ taught a pizza delivery guy how to do a TikTok. Russ doesn't care about what I'm doing in the living room. Russ is teaching the pizza delivery guy who your friend Josh Jams always corrects me. He actually owns the business. I'm like, whatever, it's the pizza delivery guy. You know, the man delivered the pizza. And then Russ teaches a guy, a stranger, how to do TikTok. The man makes his video. Russ isn't in it. It gets 500,000 views. Dave Portnoy comes and reviews that guy's pizza restaurant. And
gave him
I'm
an 8.2. Strong review. Gave him an 8.2.
regardless. Well, the cool outcome is that Russ taught a novice how to go viral. And I was sitting there and I was like staring at it. I was like, I just watched like a magician do a trick and I was enamored by it. And I
I
said,
actually prefer novices. I don't like working with people who think they know what they're doing, but it's not working.
I know. I feel like sometimes I feel like I know what I'm doing now. And you call me and this morning you were like, you know, that should have been a 10 million view video. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I say to you, I said, Russ, we need to train car dealers how to do that. And what did you say to me?
I said no.
You said, I don't think so, dude. You said, Jon, I'm a car salesman. It was like you had this like line in the sand. You're like, I am the best car salesman you have ever met. You're like, I will sell 1 million Lincolns this month before I ever train a single store. And kind of without your permission, I posted on LinkedIn as I do. And thank you, Sean Hopper, cold call for the win. And then I posted on LinkedIn and Austin Conroy from Rorman Auto DM'd me.
Calling him by his government name. You mean dealer plate guy?
Dealer plate guy. I had just met him at NADA, and you know what changes you with like the vendor stink is being in media, because then the dealers kind of like you and they want to be near you. So I was in that moment at Car Dealership Guy where Austin wanted to be like, he wanted to hang out with me. So then I got to pitch that dealer group on working with Russ, and I don't even know if Russ knew I was doing it. And I initially asked for X amount of money, and they said no. And then the general manager in Austin called me back, and they offered me half of X. They offered me one half of what I wanted to get Russ out there. And I kind of pitched a vision, and we had this fun, weird promotion idea. And we went out there and we did it. And Russ, what was that like? Tell us about going to a dealership for the first time, training them, standing before a bunch of adults. You're a 25-year-old kid. What was that like?
Yeah, I think it clicked for me. At first I was extremely nervous. I never presented ever. And I think it really clicked for me as I was like maybe 15 minutes into the meat and potatoes of my presentation. And I see people like umming and ahhing. And I'm like, wait, is what I do actually like special? Like, are these like, I thought just like everyone knew, like you wouldn't introduce yourself in the beginning of the video. Or
the real magic of this coincided because I was waiting on a home inspection and I had to live with my in-laws for 2 weeks while I was waiting on that. So Russ and I stayed up late building the whole curriculum for this thing.
Yeah. Cause it was like, I did things, but sometimes you like don't know why. Like if you ask some really good athletes that are extremely talented, there are things that like they might not even know that they do until they watch the film. Like, well, why do you do that? And then they could explain it, but if no one ever asked them, they would never even think about it. And we started like dissecting, well, why do you put your text here? Well, of course you put it there. You can't put it over there because he's like, I don't think people know that. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's something we could train on. Why do you say this in your video? Well, of course you say it like that, because if you say it like this, and it was like all these things that I had just kind of naturally figured out through sheer effort. And then, I'm the type of guy, it's like make when something works, figure out to make it keep working. We turned it into curriculum, and then we have outcomes like Dealer Plate Guy, world's most followed fixed ops director.
Well, that weekend, our first weekend, we kind of made a few stars. Like we woke up, it was Christmas morning. First of all, the challenge was if a lady buys a car that weekend, she wins a bunch of money. And the first person who bought a car won the money. And Russ and I, there's a great picture of us like blowing confetti cannons in the showroom. Everybody who works there is pissed off. We're jumping up and down. We're so excited. And then, we had 2 salesmen go viral the next morning. We woke up to somebody had 50,000 views off of Russ's like weird thing. And that's where we were like, oh, this is really working. We were as surprised as them. And
did you read Zach's LinkedIn post the other day about what they did? This is about a year and 3 months later.
Yeah, they're running with the curriculum that you gave them from day one.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, they had a Black Friday sale with 11 million views and sold the most cars they've ever sold.
And 500 leads. And that's because of Zach. I always say, I can get them going. I can't keep them going.
Zach is basically like formative to Russ Flips Whips training. He gave us all the feedback we needed. He gave us all the good referrals in the beginning, but we left that weekend and we started Dealer Plate Guy's account that weekend. You and Austin became best friends. I got a little jealous. I was like, oh, flew out here to find a new guy that he likes more than me. And then basically Austin became like this really incredible fixed ops personality on social media that we eventually signed to Freddy Media. But we left there and the 2 of us knew what just happened. No one else in the world knew what just happened except you and me. And really just the enthusiasm of that moment carried on the next 10 sales, basically, where we booked, Toothman Ford and we booked, Hyundai store. We booked all these places, and everywhere we went, we kind of left a large creator in our wake. And tell us about those early outcomes. Were they like validating for you?
Yeah, of course it's validating to see it work, and it shows to our track record. And I think, we follow back so good too. Like I'm the type of guy, text Dealer Plate Guy month 2, like, hey, you haven't posted in 3 days. Like, are you dead or are you just being lazy? And the same with Jonathan from Toothman Ford or Zach Cinch. Ask him over the last 18 months. I have messaged him and said, like, bro, you haven't posted in a week. What's going on? Your content, it crushes every time you post. Like, how are you not waking up every morning like, I'm going to make a video? Because every time I do, it gets 100,000 views. I'm like, dude, you're literally so good at it. So our follow back after the training is incredible. And I like the training because, like, when guys come in and want to do role play with the team and put people on the spot, it's awkward, it's embarrassing. When we do videos and put people on the spot, it's like a totally different, like when you mess up making a video, everyone laughs. It's fun. Everyone laughs. When you mess up
what's
doing
another
role
cool
play,
thing about your training? My favorite thing about your training, you get all the employees involved. You and I made a receptionist go viral one time in Wisconsin, and that really clicked for us. We're like, wow, that woman just had the best day of her life.
well, Brian Westwell up in Chilliwack, Canada, made a video the day I left. At first, I thought it was like, I wasn't sure where he was going with it. But then it ended up being really incredible. And he was like, hey, I've been getting a lot of hate for doing this Russell Swift training. And if we never sell a tire, a part, a car, even get a lead, I would pay for it again, because it was the most incredible opportunity to have my 4 stores come together, get to know each other, and actually have a really good time and learn some valuable things about marketing themselves. And if there's 0 outcomes, I would still do it again. And I was like, I hope you don't have 0 outcomes, but I'm glad you said that.
No, it's been the best thing. It's been the most treasured asset the two of us have built on this journey. Is your training is really, really fun. And then, so we're Freddy Media. We have $5,000 in the bank account. We have a few debts that we owe people. We hire.
I think half of that 5 was mine.
Yeah, half of it was yours. We have a few debts we owe people, and the phone rings, and it's a dealer from Australia. And I call you and I said, Russ, a dealer wants us to go to Australia, and it sounds like he's willing to like pay us to go there. And it could be really cool, and it could break us wide open. It could be this big moment for us. And I think you just said something along the lines of like, Jon, I trust you. Go close that deal. I'm down. Like, put him on the phone with me if you need it. And then I called you with like the number and the money we'd get to go and the circumstances around the trip. And I mean, I think that's what solidified us as entrepreneurs, as like a business, as like what was going on.
Yeah, it was like a bittersweet moment, because it was like, this is incredible. And then it's like, I have to go quit my job tomorrow. It's like, I was like, did they actually sign? Because if we have to go to Australia for a month, there's no way I'm going to come back to Beyond Eat Lincoln. And part of that, I don't think anybody knows this, part of that was I had been the top salesman for 3.5 years straight. I refused to not be the top salesman. So I was like, it was March. I had just sold, I don't remember, but I think it was like 25, 26 cars, doubled the next person. I was like, if I quit now, I'm leaving on top. I don't want to come back like April 28th, have 1 car on the board, then quit. So I'm just going to quit.
And then meanwhile, I'm like incurring expenses faster than I can keep up with. And I'm like, Ross, quit your job right now.
Yeah. And what's funny about all of this is the day after I quit my job, I found out my wife was pregnant, which I might have nixed everything if I knew beforehand.
Really? Nah, that gives you more conviction.
Who knows what I would have done? I didn't know. Now I know.
So we go to Australia, and you and I both go, and we really had a wonderful time. And
I make it on the news. I'm on the news.
Yeah, you went viral in Australia, which I thought was even more vindication of what you do. And I think you and I had like this great moment on this beach, kind of like in very remote part of Australia. And there's like perfect waves breaking that day. And I didn't have my surfboard.
Penguin Island? Is that what it was called?
Phillip Island. I didn't have my surfboard. And I was like kind of kicking rocks. And I said, Russ, like, man, I wish I had my surfboard. And you were like, Jon, you persuaded someone to pay for us to go halfway around the world to teach him to do TikTok. I'm pretty sure you can get a surfboard on this beach right now. And like, I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, I think I can. And kind of like in the next moment, a stranger walked up.
You're in your underwear.
Australia,
in the next moment.
Australia functions entirely on the honor system. And some guy was like, hey, dude, why don't you have a surfboard? And I was like, I'm from Florida. I don't have one. He was like, I'll give you mine. And I live a mile away, and just put it under my, truck later. And so the guy handed me the surfboard. It was like a cold day in Australia with like great white shark warnings and all this stuff. And I'm like, damn, I don't have a swimsuit. And Russ and his brother like shamed me into like paddling out in my underwear and like frigid cold water, but got to say that I did it.
Yeah, that was well worth it. That was about 3 hours before we went to see penguins come off the shore.
That was the weirdest thing we've ever done in my life. the Penguin Parade in Australia. If you guys have never been to the Penguin Parade in Melbourne, Australia, Phillip Island, it's a fever dream. I almost say don't go, but you have to go.
There's going to be a documentary on the lady who had all of the houses demolished for the Penguins. You know, the $50 million in real estate that she was proud were demolished for the Penguins to have.
There's two creative projects I really want to undertake at Freddy Media. One of them, I want to do the Russ Flips Whip story where he plays all the characters in his life, except kind of like Tyler Perry. He plays his dad, his uncle. People don't know this. Russ's grandfather was a prolific carpet salesman. He invented putting carpet in the bathrooms of homes. He was like an Italian immigrant with a great work ethic, and his name was Rocco Buccaroni. I have a vision where Russ plays all the characters in his life like Tyler Perry. If Freddy Media has any purpose, we produce that one day.
Imagine this: a 5'5" Italian guy in the late 60s with in front of a war room with like a pen and paper. He's like, all right, guys, how are we going to upsell? Johnny, that account you got last year, what do you get? What can you sell them? Nothing. They got carpet everywhere, boss. They got carpet everywhere. Well, do they have carpet in their bathroom? Well, no, but who puts carpet in their bathroom? We do. It's the new thing.
The rug really ties the room together. So, you know, what's really kind of a weird thing about that is when I met Johnny Hilbrandt, who's the private equity guy, who's somebody I have a lot of conviction in the way I do with you. The first thing he made fun of someone for was having carpet in their bathroom. He said, we just had a run-in with somebody that really rubbed us the wrong way. And he was like, that person probably has a carpet in their bathroom. And it kind of like was one of those serendipitous moments where like I'm talking to the guy, you know, Russ's grandfather invented carpet in the bathroom. So anyway, we start Freddy Media, which is really like a media brokerage talent management agency. And it's kind of riding these lines. Like it's kind of owns Russ's training company, but Russ's training company is growing so much. We're getting so many leads when we're in Australia. We have this like seminal moment where Russ sent in 500 leads. And meanwhile, we have like Savannah and Noah back there just trying to answer leads for like, you know, like crazy. And I'm staying up till 2 a.m. calling people. I don't calling them in the wrong time zones. And Russ Flips Whips really becomes its own entity while we're in Australia. It becomes its own business. And we build out those modules. We do all these things. We really productize it. And then, you know, Russ was also formative in Freddy Media to signing talent. You know, I would say along with Russ, the other creator that we first signed to Freddy Media, which is like world's greatest creator ever. We got so fortunate on this was Chris Kerner. And Russ, can you like tell everybody who Chris Kerner is?
Yeah, I mean, he is the ultimate business person, and he makes literally like the best B2B and B2C. And it's B2C because he's teaching consumers how to become B2B business owners. So it's like the ultimate, like there's nobody in America who shouldn't follow him. He does all these great, like genius business ideas that people submit to him, and he breaks down. He talks about his own business endeavors. He did something with Buc-ee's where he got sued by Buc-ee's or something, but
he got sued like on purpose by Buc-ee's because they didn't have an e-commerce brand, and he thought if he pulled a stunt, he could do it, and he got it. He is Buc-ee's e-commerce.
Yeah, so he is just incredible. I don't know if you know. Do you remember who our third talent was? I remember
George Saliba.
Yeah, so I was playing Topgolf in Phoenix, and George texted me out of the blue. He was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about signing a brand." And I don't think we were even public about Freddy Media, really. He's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about signing a brand partnership with this company. What do you think? What are you doing right now?" And I just called him, and I was like, "Hey, you should talk to this guy, John. You're John." I think you were like, "I'm at a party." I'm like, "Bro, it's George Saliba. Walk out of the party."
That's a story of my life. I always get calls. Like I'm at my wife's Christmas party last night, and you know, like a dealer CEO calls me, and she's giving me the look. I walk out. I gotta take this one. My autobiography will be, I gotta take this one. But it was George Saliba, and I mean, buddy. Like George has the biggest YouTube. His YouTube is like Pawn Stars. It gets better ratings than you look at the biggest YouTube channels in the world. George gets double their views. George is internationally famous. George is the most famous person in Lebanon. Let me know in the comments, how do we make money off that? We booked him at a soccer stadium once. That was pretty cool. But like, just like you, Russ, George promoted a dealership product, and I think like 500 or 1,000 dealers signed up for it. And then suddenly we both looked at each other and we're like, oh, he's got it too. And that's like when somebody really fits our team, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think what's really cool about, what we do and what we promote, it's like you have a following and then you start using these things and then you're like, well, I use it. Let's figure out, like, okay, so go high level. I use it for 3 businesses. I love it. I'll probably tell people to sign up for me even if they weren't paying me. Like that's how much I like it. So
High Level is a brand partner of ours. We do a lot of influencer marketing for them. Chris Kerner is like a de facto spokesperson for them.
But I think that's what we're really good at is like, hey, George, what do you use that you like? Or, hey, do you want to try this? And if you do like it, I can get them to pay you to promote it too. It's like a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
And then our 4th sign, I remember this one because I was at the gym. You were like, hey, call Benson Bow Ties. And I was like, I don't have his number, but I'll get it. I DM'd him. Hey, what's your number? He just sent it. I called him. I was like, and he, as you know, Doug very well, he asks a lot of questions.
Yes. He is the most earnest, kind, awesome person we know. He is the best guy.
And I was just like, bro, I don't know. John made me 20 grand last month. Just talk to him.
Yeah. And you know what? Just like you, Doug has this like really awesome dealer audience. And I love the reason you have a dealer audience is effectively satire. You were great at kind of like making fun of the industry. George has it because it's like a, behind the scenes look at it. And Doug kind of for the same reason, transactional, behind the scene, operational strategy. And between you guys, we really had something special. So many awesome people followed along later. And now we have a influencer roster. I'll brag. We got 150 million followers on Freddy Media. And, somebody asked me the other day, like, what's our aspiration? What do we want to do with that? Somebody said, oh, are you like Barstool Sports? I said, you know what? I think a lot of people in the past have like kind of made a mistake where they've said, oh, let's take these like really creative, awesome people and force them onto my platform.
So
where I've always
perceived, and then leave, because they want to have their own thing.
I've always perceived these people as the publishers. I think of Russ as a publisher. I think of him as like what, our grandfathers perceived a magazine to be. And I see that George Saliba, I perceive him like Pawn Stars. I believe Chris Kerner is, this like awesome, business inspiring entrepreneur. And then suddenly we have this really cool business where we're managing talent and Russ's training business is off and running. And we're doing marketing for a lot of brands. We just get pulled in.
What's cool about the training is it's a breeding ground for the next influencer because Andrea sells Cadillac, just got an inbound offer she was like, what do I do? And I just connected her with Savannah. I'm like, hey, it's time. You come into the
isn't that weird? Atmosphere. We've like made stars big enough through Russ Flips Whips training where now they make a lot of brand deals. That was the craziest thing that ever happened. I've had feedback from brands that Dealer Plate Guy gets more leads on like social media reels than anything they've ever done.
Well, he's marketing to an untapped market. I mean, who is out there making fixed operations promotions on their organic social media?
Yeah, I had a great moment the other day where I was at my daughter's Thanksgiving thing and a guy was dressed as a technician for a Porsche store here in Jacksonville. And I said, hey, dude, do you look at any of that weird social media stuff about car dealerships? And he turned his phone to me and it was nothing but Dealer Plate Guy, you, George, Doug, moving merch. It was just our roster on the guy's phone, him and the boys at the dealership.
Zach Cinch said, where are all of Russ's toys and figurines? John forced me to get a new background and grow up. He said, no more anime in the background, Russ.
Russ is an adult father now, so I didn't do it. His child did.
Yes.
So from there, we kind of have these like parallel lives going on where Russ is like crushing. It's a little intimidating. Russ is a better sales guy than me. You kind of unleash Russ into something. He's very competitive, very creative, very good. The two of us both drive a lot of revenue. Are you a better sales guy than me?
I think what helps me close a little bit better than you, not like closing on the call. I take follow-up personally when people don't tell me no. I do not settle for it's either yes or no. And I will follow somebody till they tell me yes or no. And it doesn't matter if that takes 2 months or 8 months. There's a guy, I hope he's watching this in Canada, Todd, I don't know how to say his last name, Ladonda at Cam Clark Ford.
Way to call him out. Todd signed the paperwork.
And Todd inquired in March of this year. Guess who got a video on Thanksgiving night? Todd did. And I said,
Oh,
hey,
brother, I'm long-term as well. I hang with it too.
Todd.
Yeah.
I will follow that guy till he tells me to leave him alone.
So the two of us kind of have these like parallel companies. We both are partners in each other's businesses. I think that's really cool. And then where it all converges is kind of like spinning up this dealer services initiative and bringing on experienced operators like Adam Gedke and building products for automotive and consulting with dealers that are taking on their biggest challenges. And I think that's something that we were always bound to do. And,
And we're so creative. That's why I like this company, because like I have a guy who really wants me to come out and train. It's a 2-store group here in Pittsburgh. And we've been talking about it for months. And I know it's the money, and but one of our dealer service partners was like, hey, Russ, if you ever got someone to sign up for this, I'll pay you. And it's at no cost to the dealer. So you get paid, they don't pay. So I texted the guy this morning, hey, what if I come train you for free? He goes, I'm listening. I said, hey, there's this company. Yeah. He goes, there's this company, DealerWorks. It's a payment processing service. It costs you nothing. If you take a demo and like and sign up, they will pay for me to come and train you. He goes, funny you say that. I've actually been talking about doing that, and now I got to make the connection. And if it goes through, I'm going to go train this guy for free. It's like a normal business wouldn't do that. There's no, but we're creative and nimble in how can we reach.
Well, you and I have always sought that partnership. We've always said whatever vendor is smart enough to come along with the training is going to win big. And, shout out to DealerWorks for being the first people to raise their hand on that, because they were like, yeah, dude, we'll cover half that training for the people that say yes to that.
And that's because their product's so good. They don't. Hey, we got Christopher, someone here who works for Cam Clark Auto Group. Tell Todd to answer my last 7 videos I've sent him.
Really? Todd's getting kicked around on this episode of Freddy Fridays or whatever, Freddy Thursdays.
And Christopher, you can verify that with Todd that I have followed him up relentlessly.
Just make sure Todd makes an appointment on my link, not Russ's. That's just how it goes.
But DealerWorks is smart. They were like, hey, look, people love our product. When they sign up, we have 0 churn. No one's ever churned. So we'll front the bill, Russ. You sign them up, and I'll pay what you want to go train. And then a dealer gets 2 great things. They get better payment processing and organization, and better ROs and presentation to the customers, and they get me, and they cost them nothing.
No, I love DealerWorks. Shout out DealerWorks, good people. Let's talk about weird things that have transpired. Let's talk about like things we never thought would happen. You and I both have opportunities for like venture investing now. I think when I met you, you were a car salesman. Now you own a media company, you own all sorts of stuff. Like this morning, I just, one of the influencers got invited into a round for like probably the greatest tech company that I know of. And they got offered preferential treatment, and then they like pulled us into it, and I was able to participate in that. So, what is, investing, you like don't mention companies or anything, but like suddenly you're kind of like an accredited venture investor. And was that ever something you thought you'd come here?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, there's been, I've made 6-figure investments in tech companies that, look, I went from like the most frugal, shrewd person to like, whatever. And that's a lot of money for me. Don't get me wrong, but that's been cool opportunities. A dealer near me, Deal Automotive, the owner asked me to go to the Ferrari Casa Laguna race. And I was like, what do you want? He's like, just come, make some content. It'll be a good time for you. Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll come watch you race a Ferrari.
You shot a pilot for a TV show. Tell us about that. Like, how was it? You walked in. I think it's funny because you're content guy. You made $1 million off your iPhone, and then you walked into a Hollywood production.
Yeah, what was cool about that is when they reached out and sent me the script, you know me, Jon, I'm just tell you how it is. In a nice way, or maybe not in a nice way, in a not mean way, where I was like, this is just a terrible script.
You're actually, Jon and I are going to make a Tyler Perry version of my life.
Yeah. So they hit us with the script. I'm like, I'm good. This is just not what I want to be part of. I don't even like the name, the whole premise. Like, and the creators do have some dealership experience, but I felt like they were trying too hard for like what it's like in Chicago. I'm like, yo, it's totally different. I've been to dealerships all over the world now. We need to make this all encompassing. This can't be like the sleazy bad car dealership in Chicago. It's not going to be relatable. So we talk, we don't really do much. Then they come back like, hey, what if we cut you guys in, you and Jon, and you help with the script? I'm all ears now. And we refined the script. We changed the name. They named it Strokes, which I'm like, dude, I asked 100 people if they knew what strokes meant. Like 5 did. Okay, so 95% of people don't know what a stroke is. So like, let's not make that the whole punchline of the show. We just rename it Car City, make it more relatable. And I haven't seen it, but I'm really excited to see how the TV show turns out. I'm very upset actually because they were like a month and a half overdue, but whatever, you know.
Yeah, no, it's cool that you're like the star of a pilot, and we'll pitch that to all the streaming platforms. I think I'm technically the producer. I think my role as a producer, if I could encapsulate that, was calling a bunch of influencers and getting them to play nice with each other, and then asking a couple people for money, and like a few of them threw in.
Hey, we got it done.
Yeah. So let's talk about this, Russ. When I met you, your craziest dream in the world, I remember week 3 of meeting each other, we tried to negotiate to get you a piece of a car dealership. Didn't work out. We kind of got our hands smacked for doing it. But do you think that you'd ever want to circle back and become a car dealer? Or do you think that you've seen the other side of the hedges and you saw something you never was supposed to see, and now you can never go back because you have this flexibility? Russ said one of the most naive things I've ever heard the other day. He said, now that I've had a baby, we're going to travel the world. My baby's going to come with all the trainings. We're going to do 6 trainings a month. I'm going to homeschool her out of my van. And I was like, okay, great. And then you did call me the other day and they're like, what if we only did 3 a month? And I was like, that's my boy.
I don't know if I quite said all that, but a lot of that was accurate with the baby. I think for me, it's like, can Russ literally hand write out the next 5 to 10 years of his life? And it looks like this. I helped build some really cool automotive tech companies and what we're doing. I amass, and this is, people watching this might think I'm freaking crazy. I believe it. I'm going to speak it into existence. I'm part of a few large exits, bank, $50 to $70 million, and buy into a not small dealer group, but, small enough that there's room for growth. And they would consider a guy like me coming in as an equitable partner. I think some groups are too big and I couldn't make the impact I'd want to. Some are too small and have a scarcity mindset. And I want to do that because of legacy. My daughter that's in the other room right now will not probably be a part of this social media training company in 35 years. But could she be an awesome operator owner for a 80 store group? Absolutely. But it requires capital. And I'm smart enough to know that it'd be very, 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 very tough and a long road to take the road of general manager, save every dime, make $600K a year, $800K a year, save 50% of my salary. And then over 10 years, have enough to get in. And then I realized, over 10 years of inflation, what I thought I needed 10 years ago is triple what it is today, where I could do this route I'm on now.
You're such like a Gen Z Bitcoin kid. You're like, I need 70 million, where like everybody's like, that 600 grand sounds pretty nice.
Look, man, go big or go home. And the thing about me, Jon, this, I grew up so poor. I'm not afraid to be poor again. It's not that bad.
You're not afraid to be poor again now that you're rich?
No, dude, I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 people on 3rd story. It's not that bad.
Yeah, true. I kind of share that. You and I, if we've done anything over the past 24 months, we have become really comfortable with taking risk.
Yeah. I mean, you can see Alex Ramos's book back here. He always says, like, you're going to die and no one's going to remember you no matter what you do. You're going to die. No one's going to remember you. Like the Queen of England died 8 months ago. Has anyone listening to this thought of her in the last 8 months? Probably not. One of the most important people in our lives. My family
held a candlelight vigil last night. It was very respectful.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah. No, I'd say, yeah, you have to take risk. And I believe if there's anything that we could impart on the entire audience, it's, I don't know who is watching this, but if you are watching this, I would encourage you. Here's the formula for entrepreneurship. I believe that everybody should go learn an industry for as long as they hang around in it. As long as you can stand being inside of a car dealership, as long as you can stand being a realtor or a doctor or whatever it is you can do, and then you should publish along the way. Jim O'Leary, tell him a little bit about Real Doc Speaks. He's my father-in-law, an OBGYN. Now he has a big social media following. And I think, Russ, he kind of wished he just did that the whole time.
Yeah, and he would tell you firsthand when I was pleading with him on the beach as he was explaining to me what to do if somebody needed CPR, which is a very weird conversation, but I learned exactly what to do in depth. I'm talking like, how do you flag down the ambulance and tell them where you are and give them direct? I mean, and I'm like, bro, this is a video, and he's like, well, I could just type it up and put it on. I said, no, you need to do video. I do X. I never tell anybody to stop what they're doing. I'm always like, plus, add more to it. So keep doing X, and it took him a year and a half to get on video. What is his number one regret? Russ, I should have started when you told me on the beach a year and a half ago, because Mark Cuban just shared my video, or whoever it was.
It goes viral all the time.
Yeah, and it took.
It's kind of fun to watch you make fun of my in-laws. I don't know why I kind of like that.
Dude, it took him. It cost him probably 50 grand and 20 million views minimum to wait a year and a half.
Yeah, dude. So I would say publish on what you're doing. And then Russ and I both kind of have a formula for like a very lean startup. You have to kind of start selling what you got. Don't invest in a ton of inventory. Find some sort of service that doesn't cost anything that you can deliver to people based on the domain expertise that you've simply garnered. And then, Russ, tell us about, like, you just built Russ Flips Whips training. We built this LMS and you had to build a CRM. What CRM did you use? How much did it cost?
Yeah, high level, the world's greatest CRM, and they actually do pay me transparently, but I would say that even if they didn't, because
It's like
I
$97, I think.
$97 a month, and I have these people that are building it with me and for me for a very low cost, and you don't even need them. I wouldn't even recommend that early on. But once you know what you want, you can tell somebody for like $50, hey, can you build this automation where a lead comes in, it determines if it's a salesperson or a manager, and then it puts it in somebody's name, assigns the lead value, follows up with them with a calendar link, and then if they book, can it go over here and do this, and this, and can it move the opportunity this way into this bucket because they booked, and then after the meeting, can it tell if they showed and push them into this bucket?
You're a CRM nerd now, dude. You're a full nerd. And then, so you take your high level. I use HubSpot. Russ makes fun of me for that. I was kind of too late.
You're overpaying, bro.
Yeah. And then we both like Mercury Bank a lot. Why do we like Mercury Bank?
Mercury Bank, dude, I wish I knew about it.
This isn't a promotion. I just would encourage entrepreneurs to use Mercury Bank because you can sling money around.
I'll never forget. 3 weeks before I sign with Mercury, my private wealth manager is like, hey, I really would encourage you to move everything over to Chase. Chase is just, I recommend it because there's banks everywhere as you're traveling. You never know. You might need to hit an ATM or walk in. Who knows, dude? Something crazy might happen. You might want to get a certified check, buy a car on the road. I recommend Chase. Your current credit union, they're great, but I'm not even saying cancel them. You got to go Chase for the business. So I go on to Chase's website. It's like, you got to come in. I'm like, I got 40 demos tomorrow. I can't come in.
We've never come into anything.
So I go into Chase. I'm there for like 2 hours. They're trying to sell me on all this stuff. I'm like, dude, I have a private wealth manager. I do not need to be a Chase preferred client. I'm good. John's like, when we do RFW training, because there's Russ Flips Whips LLC, now we're doing RFW training. He's like, dude, do it through Mercury. I'm like, all right, where's the nearest Mercury? Oh, there is none. And I have a full bank account in like 24 hours where I can collect money, and it's a legitimate. I'm like, oh, I'll never do anything else. I could just like, how has the banking industry not realized that you should be able to do it all from home? And yes, Mercury needed my ID. It needed this. It needed like Face ID. I had to like send a video like, hi, I'm Russ. This is really me.
Takes a day to set up. And then from there, you really just need a Google Calendar and connect it to Google Meet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tossing around the idea of Zoom. And I like Zoom. And you'll like this, John. You can actually on Zoom do a waiting room. So as people, like, say somebody shows up to your meeting 5 minutes earlier, you could have like a super cool like intro about Freddy Media or RFW training, and like they can just sit there and watch it. Yeah. And for that fact alone, I'm like, do I switch over to Zoom? But Google's been so good to me.
And then I would say the last recipe is reading the book Over Russ's Right Shoulder, the $100 million Leads by Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi is the grandfather of content-led businesses. Some people say Gary Vee. Russ and I are Alex Hormozi guys. I grew up with him in Baltimore. I used to beat him in middle school tennis. Then he went to Vanderbilt with my wife. And then right out of college, he was my roommate's best friend. So I had this like weird glimpse into Alex's life. And he really is like, if you want to learn how to do it, read that book. But Russ and I's recipe for a lean startup would be Mercury Bank, go high level, Google Meet, Google Calendar, selling an idea, selling kind of services that you don't have to buy inventory for. And that is how you bootstrap a business. That being said, Russ, we have 1 minute left. I do love you, buddy. Like, I really think of you as a brother. Proud of what we built together. Proud of what you have built. And, we got a big year ahead, dude.
Yeah, 2026 is just going to be so legendary. I mean, we're not waiting until 2026 to get started. We're going to go so hard in December. I'm really happy where my baby was born because it has allowed me over these 2 months to not travel and build. And I'm like, I'm working just straight 12s every day. I don't even know what day it is today. I really have no clue.
Go spend some time with your kid. All right, Russ,
in the other
this is
room.
the greatest. Building 2 businesses with you has been the best, career I could ever have. I really only want to own 2 businesses. I want to own Freddy Media and I want to own RFW Training. If anybody's interested in working with either of them, hit up Russ, hit up me. Thank you for tuning in. And thanks for rooting for us. That's the thing Russ and I are most grateful for. The people in our lives really have our backs, our wives, our family, our kids, both girl dads. So thank you for coming along with it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, John. Do this again soon.